Let's talk a little again so I can play with that on your levels because I need you to get about the same spot as me.
Okay.
Oh, a little too high
Oh
this
god.
time.
Oh shit. I
No,
don't
it's
move my
fine.
mic.
No, you're good.
Okay.
I'm just trying to play with us so we're both about the same in our levels.
Oh fuck me.
Okay, I think that seems like it's about where it should be, but I don't know.
We'll do it live. Ugh, I don't need my hat. It's too fucking hot for a hat.
So yeah, um, I guess to start with,
Yeah, I was gonna say. I'll let you go.
yeah, well, so to start with, I wanted to bring up the fact that we had like um, going into this kind of a departure from what I would consider to have been like what Ultraman had been doing for a while there, where like I'd say the last, I would say honestly, all of the new gen to one extent or another had something to do with like a legacy theme to it, where like Ultraman was really heavily influenced by what had come before it, like new gen Ginga had Taro from Showa pop up as like a main character.
Huh.
Um, X had a few like legacy ultras show up. Orb and Jeed were all about legacy. Rube shouldn't have been about legacy, but they shoehorned it in. Taiga was again another legacy with Taro. Zet was legacy again. Fucking Decker and Trigger are just both remakes of Dinah and Tiga, respectively. So, like, this was the first one in, gosh, like a decade where they weren't just trying to, like, play with what had been in Ultra before and instead play with, like, what they wanted to do, which I thought was kind of nice. Like, it gave a fresh start. You didn't necessarily have to know everything that had happened prior to it to know what's going on with it.
Yeah, because the last, like I said, decade, I haven't even really watched them. So
Hmm.
coming into something that with the fresh start was pretty nice.
Yeah, no, I would imagine like it does a really good job of like being very newbie friendly, which is really welcoming, especially with what Subaraya Productions has been doing recently, where they've just been streaming all their shows on YouTube so anyone can watch them. It really makes it a more dynamic product because of it. So I guess let's get into the start of the episode. So how did you feel about Gento as a main character with his introduction?
Okay, so I'm still a little confused with Gento, to be honest.
Mhm.
Like the whole him jumping out of the plane and all that, super badass.
Yep.
Um, I feel like he's gonna be a pretty badass, but like, is he supposed to be like psychic or?
Um, See, I'm not 100% certain of that. I get the feeling that like, and again, this is me kind of remembering some things from my previous watch through, but like going into it with as much of a fresh perspective as possible. I think part of it just comes down to he's already bonded to Blazar by this point. So I think
Huh.
we're getting Gento being an ultra host already. And that's kind of where like the psychic element is coming from, is he's just already an Ultraman. He doesn't realize it yet, though.
Okay, that makes sense to me.
Hmm.
Because it was just that scene of when they're all being told to retreat to a new area, and he just starts like seeing like into the future and all
Yep.
that.
Yep. I remember which scene you're talking about. It's kind of later in the episode, a little past the halfway point, if I'm remembering right.
Yeah,
Yep.
I think it's like
Yeah.
right after the first set of commercials.
Yep. Yep. Which I'm gonna do a quick side note on that. How do you like that we just have built-in commercials to the episode?
Honestly, it brings me joy
Hmm.
because they're just so outrageous.
Oh yeah. Yeah. The uh, the Ultraman commercials, the ones that are actually built in the episode, are a lot of fun. Let's see. So I also really appreciate like that Gento is actually the leader of this group. Like having the Ultra Host be the guy in charge is fun, which
Hmm.
becomes a big part of who he is in later episodes, like episode 2 onward, and him kind of having to play with like both being the Ultraman and trying to be the leader of this team.
Yeah, while being hounded to make sure he beats all the monsters before Ultraman can come.
Yep. Uh, which I love the idea that like his entire job is, all right, I'm supposed to beat these guys before I beat these guys. So like if my team is doing well, I'm winning. If I actually have to step in myself,
We're
I
winning.
technically win, but we are also losing.
Okay, just speaking about like that, like, dear God, have I missed Summation?
Oh yeah.
Dear God, is so nice.
Hmm.
The designs are perfect.
Yep. Yeah, what is it Bazonga, I want to say is its name?
Believe that's the first one because
Yep.
Bazanga, um,
Oh, okay.
Giza, Gizor, something
Yeah,
in the second one.
I want to say you're right on that one, but yeah, that's something that I've really appreciated about Subaraya's work is like everything is, well, except for like a few things here and there, almost everything is done with like practical effects, which aside from obviously like beam work, but like the suits actually there for Blazar and for Bazonga and for every other kaiju that we run into over the course of this series, except for like I'm trying to remember if maybe towards like the very end, but that's something I'll look at later.
Yeah, because I think I am caught up to episode 3.
Hmm. Yeah.
Hmm.
Speaking of Bazonga, how did you like Bazonga's design?
It was like a 7 out of 10 for me.
Yeah,
I
that's
fucking
fair.
loved it. And the
I
fact
think
that they actually put parts on them where they could like rip them off.
yep, that's the big selling point for this episode in terms of the Ultra fight is like this is okay. So getting a little bit ahead of ourselves, let's back it up a tiny bit because I want to talk about
Yeah.
that, but I don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves. So eventually, like Bazonga's destroying the town, and I love that we see a lot of this from the perspective of like on the ground because I feel like we
Yeah,
don't.
the scaling of this.
Yeah, yeah, like we don't get to see stuff from the ground perspective enough in like recent Toku, in my opinion. I feel like they're always quick to shift to like the kaiju perspective and the kaiju size, so like you lose some of that perspective of what it would be like for the actual people. So to have Blazar actually like have a lot of scenes in the first episode that are set from that ground level perspective where Bazong is just destroying the city as the strike team's trying to get everything in place to attack it and try to bring it down is really special in my opinion.
Yeah, it kind of brought me back in the day when I used to watch Mighty Morphin Power Rangers,
Yep, yep.
the OG series, and Super Sentai, of course.
But yeah, let's see. So then we eventually get the first transformation where Gento becomes Blazar.
When he pulls out his Yu-Gi-Oh
Yep,
dual deck blade Beyblade thing.
yep. Puts the crystal in it and then transforms. Yeah, in order to catch the building.
Yes.
Yep, that
So
was
like
great.
the first time I watched it, I didn't even realize the building was crashing.
Hmm.
I thought he just grew and just like he broke it and then he had to catch it. It wasn't until the second time I finally realized it was just already falling.
Hmm. And I love the way that's framed, where like the first time you see him entirely from behind as he's catching the building, and then I think it's that we head to commercials, and when we come back, and the first time we see him from the front, we see the gray side before we see the colored side.
Oh my god, it's the color side just perfect for
Yep,
him.
yep. I love the way they did this suit. That it's the last couple of suits for Ultraman, they've tried to do like asymmetrical designs where like one side is clearly different than the other, but I love the division between the color side and the gray side because I feel like it makes it more unique and it gives you those moments where you see just one side or the other side, and he has like a really dynamic feel for when you switch from like only seeing part of him to seeing the entire thing.
Yeah, because like right now I got a photo of him just pulled up.
Hmm.
Uh, just the sorry.
Now go for it.
Oh, jeez. It really just feels like his veins going through his half his body that we're able to see.
Yep, yep. And then okay, so how do you feel about the noises? Because after that, we get the first like noises from him.
Dude, that shit cracked me up.
Yep,
I fucking loved it.
yep,
It's so good.
yep,
Ooh, uh, uh,
yep. And
it's
it's
so primitive and
yep,
great.
and it's the way it sounds. Like there's like a little bit of like there's like some sort of effect done to it where it's like a "Ugh," for all of his noises, where it has like an up and down to it.
Yeah.
And oh gosh, like it sounds like as having watched like a lot of the new gen stuff, he sounds completely different from every other new gen Ultra that I've watched, which I genuinely appreciate. Like it does a lot to set him apart from others, and we instantly know like, oh, this is not some intelligent like warrior of light. This is a fucking primitive hunter who just happened to show up.
Oh, it's a great concept for that.
Hmm. Then we get the fight, and we get two moments which I think are like really good hallmarks for what Blazar is. The first one being Blazar ripping off parts of the monster.
Oh,
Like it's been a hot minute since I've seen an Ultra like tear monster's limbs off, and having him do that, and like it's pretty visceral. Like I think the blood's green or blue if I'm
yeah.
remembering it, but like you see a lot of blood off of that thing.
Yeah, well, there's some scenes where they show it like squirting out.
Yep.
It was perfect.
Yeah. Again, like sets up really quick. This isn't some like noble warrior. This is a fucking just devastating. Like he is arguably as destructive as the kaiju he's fighting. Like he is causing as much damage to it as it was trying to cause to the city.
Yeah, he had no concept at this time.
Mhm. Then we get the other one that I consider to be a big hallmark for Blazar, which is that he doesn't use an ultra beam. Um, for anyone who listens to this, the three people that'll listen to it, um, Ultraman uses typically like one of two beam attacks. Either one where he makes like a plus sign with his hands, or one where he makes an L. And Blazar doesn't do either of those. He doesn't even make like an energy beam. He makes an energy spear and throws it.
When they first like actually had that scene, I thought he created an energy whip.
Hmm.
Just the way he like took it out and it started bending before
Hmm.
it straightened out. I was like, what the fuck?
Yep. Which I feel like that's also a hint at something that he does later on, which I don't want to get too far into, but like they do some really creative things with him because they're trying to do different stuff with him. Um,
It's especially in episode 2
oh,
when he does his inner that shit. Oh, that shit killed me.
yep. But yeah, then we get him throwing the spear, and we get the introduction of the best girl for this series, Emmy.
Emmy.
Yep. The first member of his team that we get to see, because like we get his team at the start of this series with the episode 1 team, but that's not the team he's gonna have for the rest of the series. Like now that Ultraman's shown up, they're gonna kind of change up how things are going to work for this defense force, and they're gonna create a new spec ops team basically, which is what episode 2 is all about. It's about introducing the team. Now, how did you feel about them waiting until episode 2 to introduce the rest of the main cast?
Honestly, I thought it worked great
See, I
because like
agree.
the first episode, it's Ultraman. You just gotta show him.
Hmm.
It's got to be about him. Who cares about the rest?
Yeah, I agree to an extent. I think there's ways of like introducing the team, like having watched the other series, like there's good ways of introducing the team in the same episode. But I think again for Blazar, when you're trying to do such a different take on an Ultra, you have to have an entire episode just setting up what he's going to be like before you introduce the team. Like if he was one of the more stereotypical ones, you could probably get away with, well, here's our Ultraman and here's the team that he's going to work with. But with Blazar, it's like, here's our Ultraman. We are going to show you how weird and different he is than what you're used to. And then you'll get the team.
And they'll do their thing. Unless we have Emmy. Emmy can be introduced at any time. She could have been the main hero. She
Honestly, yeah.
she is the main hero here. Let's be honest.
Like, there is some alternate universe where Emmy is Ultra Woman Blazar. All right, so let's do a quick rundown of the team here. One sec, I'm bringing up the the team so I can make sure I don't butcher any of their names.
Oh, we're gonna butcher the hell out of them. Let's be honest.
Yeah, yeah.
Hmm.
The chances are extremely high. Yeah, so we have obviously Emmy, who is kind of like our weapons expert. She's going to be the one who's going to be like, she uses the big cannon at the end of episode 1.
It's like that one. Like, get that bitch a cannon. Bitches love cannons.
Yep. Then we have Yasunobu Bando, who is, if I'm remembering correctly, he is our science officer and our mechanical.
Yeah, I definitely know he's the mechanic.
Yep. So he's gonna be like our techie guy for the series, which I enjoy his character a lot. I think he's kind of like a fun. He's new, but not like crazy new, and he's reliable. I'm trying not to like get too into what I know about him because um well, like I can talk about it at the end, but I mean fuck it, I'm just gonna spoil it. So his biggest contribution is he makes Earth Garon, the mech that will be Scarred, the Special Task Force's mech to try to fight kaiju.
Okay, first of all, since we're talking about that, because I mean, we get the hint of him in two, and like we get to see his full glory in episode three. I just want to say, dear God, that is one of my favorite mech designs I have ever seen.
Oh yeah, no, it is truly remarkable. Like the fact that I spent probably a little too much money buying the SH figure arts for it definitely speaks volumes about it. But yeah,
Like, I'm a
fucking
big
great.
like Mecha Godzilla fan. And, like, this was like Mecha Godzilla and like the Green Ranger's Dragon Zord combined and had a baby in this perfection.
Hmm. Yeah, so we have him, and that's gonna be like his big contribution, but he has several other contributions in terms of like he's the one that's making their equipment. He's the one who's making the weapons that they will use to fight the kaiju, and he will be a staple of that team because of that for the rest of the series. Like he is the one who's constantly working on things to help them bring down the kaiju, hoping that they're going to be bringing them down instead of Blazar, but like
Do,
I
do
mean,
we know what their special ammunition is? Because like every time, like when I was watching it, they just like bring out the special ammunition.
I am not 100% certain on that. I think there's a couple of things later on in the series where there's some special materials that get used that I'm wondering if maybe they're a derivative of that, perhaps, but I'm not 100% certain of that. Like, that's something I'm probably going to have to research at some point because I am kind of curious myself. I always just kind of assumed it was like some sort of like derivative of a kaiju or an alien that they fought earlier.
Hmm. Yeah, because it was like with in Godzilla, they use caldium to absorb the radiation because that's what they had to drop into them on Godzilla '84, and then that just basically became a staple throughout.
Yeah, and there's something in this series where I'm wondering if maybe that's what it is, but it would kind of be a stretch. Like I'll have to look into that because if it is that, it would be really cool, but at the same point in time, it would also bring up a bunch of other questions. Again, my best guess at this moment is it's probably some sort of derivative of something that like was fought earlier on before Blazar begins, and they're using
Yeah.
that as the weapon, kind of like the whole idea of like people using alien technology to advance human technology, that sort of thing. But
That's
yeah.
just shit. Yeah, I can see that.
All right, let's see. Who is our next team member? Then we've got Henri Minami.
She's the pilot, right?
Yep. And she's not super important yet, but again, with the hint at Earth Garon at the end of episode 2, you know she's going to be important. I like her. I don't think she does a whole lot in this episode that introduces her, but I mean, like, you can tell immediately that the characters are all like going to gel pretty well, and that
Yeah, because
a
like
lot
the
of
way they introduce her in it was like in her home,
mhm,
um, or dojo.
yep,
Um, she seems to be more of the Shire type, at least starting off.
yeah, which is pretty nice. Like, it automatically again, it makes her different enough from Emmy 2 that we're not worried about like too much overlap in personality. And you don't have to worry about like one diminishing the other in any regard because they're both different enough as people, which is
Yeah,
something I also like. I like that the team is relatively small too. That way you don't have too much worry about overlap.
yeah. Keep the team down to five, and er- everyone seems to have like their own different personality, which is actually really nice for the show.
Hmm. And let's see. Then our last member of the team is Teruaki Nagura, who is the second in command and ultimately the guy who will be taking charge in those moments where Gento is mysteriously gone slash actually fighting the kaiju. I like him. I think he's kind of fun as like a no nonsense guy. Like he's very straightforward and serious,
Yeah,
which works well with Gento's kind of more laid back of the two's personality.
yeah. Because there is a scene in episode three that's bugging the hell out of me, but we'll get to that later.
Hmm.
Uh, and it's actually in regards with Emmy
Okay.
and the team.
All right. I mean, I'm down for that eventually, but we got to get through episode 2 a little more first.
I know.
No,
It's like,
it's
God damn it.
no. There's a lot of stuff going on in this show that's just enough like you wanna hit on everything as fast as possible. Now, if I'm remembering right, episode 2 is also the episode where we have uh the giant fish monster Getos, right?
Yeah, Gitos.
Yep, and that's where we get, if I'm remembering right, the fucking fishing line.
Yes.
All right, I know you
Also,
liked that one.
God damn, Gitos' design is so good.
Yep.
God.
Uh, there are. I actually don't know if I have a design that I like dislike from the series. There's a few of them that I'm not like in love with, but all of them are really nice, which is actually something that I was going to bring up. So Ultraman as a franchise has this habit of because it's so legacy focused, it brings a lot of kaiju back over and over again. So you'll see the same ones like three, four, five times. Like the amount of times I've seen Gomora is just fucking absurd. But
Eh,
for this series, I think they only bring back two kaiju suits for one episode. All of these, well, no, there's one more thing they bring back, but like it's pretty heavily modified, so I'll give it a pass.
if they
But
modified it, yeah, give it that.
yeah, almost all these are entirely new designs. which is
Oh,
just very, very refreshing seeing all these really new kaiju designs show up and seeing that's where a lot of the budget is going to go to. And that's where a lot of the creativity goes to, especially considering like they show up for an episode and maybe you tear off their arms during that episode.
or just complete. Oh my god, the way they just destroy the SWAT
Okay.
Gitos. Go on, go on.
No, but yeah, so I love that it's like like a giant anglerfish monster.
Yeah, it's like half anglerfish, half whale, half sea serpent.
Yep.
And it is the, just the texture alone they gave him,
Hmm.
like this black rubber, like like almost like not rubber, almost like a black denim
Yep. Yep. It's
for
got
their scale is.
yeah, it kind of has like the plating that almost looks like scales on it, and it has like the in the neck part what looks like venting and almost like could be gills.
I was gonna say like he has this massive gill plate right
Hmm.
there, the base of his neck that's just vulnerable,
Yep.
and the blowhole on the back.
Yep. No, this is a solid design, which I'm gonna say more than once. This is a solid design for these.
Yeah, I was gonna say out of the 3 episodes I've watched and 3 monsters we've shown, this is by top tier right now.
I mean, hey, I definitely get why you would say that. This thing is fantastic. But yeah, do you want to cover the fight for us? I know
Okay,
you enjoy
so
it.
this shit is fucking bad shit. So obviously, um, oh my god, I can't talk. Hmm. Apologies. Oh. So yeah, when Ultraman finally shows up and they do their little fisticuffs, he he pulls out his energy spear again, does his little hand sign, portal opens, he pulls it out, and then I get what I think is going to be the whip again, because it's curving like crazy. After he is running for his life, he tosses what is now an energy fishing rod and hooks him. I can't remember if it's in the mouth or near the blowhole. I think the blowhole is actually later in the fight.
I think so, yeah.
And he dives in and goes batshit crazy. I don't know if anybody's like who listens to fin fishing, but it is the most largemouth bass flopping around type of fish I've seen in a minute. Jumping up and down, splashing, making crazy ruckus. And Ultraman yanks him up into the air and he is flying. And as he is falling, he summons his spear again and just chucks it. And on the back of Gitos, there is a massive blowhole that just lines up with his spine, and it just goes right through him. And then they just freeze frame him in midair, and he just starts cooking from the inside out to look like a giant fish on a stick
Yep.
over over a fire, and then he just explodes. It is one of the most glorious, like, quick fights I've ever seen.
Yeah, no, it does such a really, really good job of like setting up some choreography and doing some unique things that I haven't necessarily seen before, which I feel like the choreography in Blazar is just very, very high level. Like they wanted this to be a really good, fresh jumping on point for the fan base. So if you had never watched this before, you could hop in and say, all right, I'm just going to see a really solid show every week that usually will have some sort of high level production to its fights.
I mean, it really felt like old Showa era esque fights mixed with really the only thing I can compare that fight to is we always go back to Godzilla, but Final
Mm.
Wars, specifically the part where he's playing soccer with Tangiris. It's just that bad shit.
Oh yeah, no, it does a really good job of moving along the line of really cool and borderline hilarious at times. And like even the things that are hilarious, you're still like, that was pretty cool.
No, yeah, those are.
Oh no, you're good. You're good.
Oh,
Yeah. So let's see. Any other specific things that we want to bring up? Um,
uh,
uh, I
I mean,
guess
this is really where we get to the scene where um, the commander in charge is literally telling Ginto and the team uh, about Earth Gatos
Garon.
Garon, Earth Garon,
Mhm.
and then we just pan up and see this absolute disgustingly good design of a mech.
Mhm. Which again, such a good design. I'm turning my head to the right a little bit right now, and I'm looking at the figure over on a shelf right now. Like it is a top tier design in terms of a mech. Um,
Yeah, I'm not
definitely
gonna
the
lie. I've been looking up figures to get.
it's great. Not only that, but like minor spoilers, they uh they give it like upgrades throughout the series, and I pre-ordered all the upgrade parts for it. Yep,
You're so good.
it is fantastic. Like every part of this design is just so well crafted. Yeah, little housekeeping at this point. So fun fact about this show. Originally they didn't want a show like this. Like Subaraya Productions wanted a remake of Ultraman Gaia since they had just done a remake of Tiga and Dyna, and those were kind of like the big trinity they had back during Heisei. So they wanted to see if they could do a remake of Gaia for its anniversary to try to capitalize on that. And the creator just straight up said, "Well, how about we don't do that?
How about new?
How about we have a few nods to it in terms of some elements, but why don't we do something like different and unique and like maybe a good starting point for someone instead of something that requires you to be somewhat entrenched in order to understand it."
Yeah, because I mean, they basically did that with Shin Ultraman.
Hmm.
They literally like shot for shot remade some old Showa scenes,
Yep.
and honestly, I mean, they were good, but like, did we really need a shot for shot?
True. But yeah, that was actually the big one was the big nod still to Ultraman Gaia is Blazar and Gaia both didn't have like traditional Ultra beams as their main attacks, and that's kind of the big nod he wanted to give to that was, all right, cool. I'm just not gonna have an Ultra beam, but I'm also not gonna remake Gaia.
I mean, I do hope later on because like I said, it's what 28 episodes. I'm
Yeah.
three episode in. I do kind of hope that eventually he does have a beam, just because I love beam attacks.
Oh yeah. No, I get you. Well, like he learns more attacks as the series goes on too. Like he gets more abilities as time goes on. He gets more elements to use in combat as time goes on. Like he's caveman Ultraman, and you get to see him become more of what an Ultraman is. It's just he's at such a primitive start right now.
Ooh,
But yeah. Is there anything else we want to add before we call it?
oh, I think that's pretty close. Unless you have some more fun facts.
Not really. I've got like a couple other things, but I figured I'll space those out as they become a little more appropriate. Like, there's a couple other things that I know about that I'll mention later on, like, because there's like two or three prominent nods to certain aspects of the Ultra franchise, but not necessarily like good to bring up now because they haven't happened yet. But yeah, other than that, I
Yeah.
think this is a solid stopping point, so we will call it. Thanks for listening.
All right.